everybody. Why don't we give it up for Zach? He's a great MC this morning, getting everybody fired up. So thank you so much for having me here. And it is true that most of you have more wisdom than many of the adults in the room. So thank you so much, Zach, for the things that I need to teach my children about experiencing the world like you are here today. So it is my pleasure today to share with you the magic of computer science and a little bit about why I am so passionate about this space as well. Now, first thing I want to do is start with this picture. How many of you have seen this picture before and know what it is? Fantastic. So if you said that this was the world's first programmable, all-electronic general-purpose computer that was created back in 1946, you're absolutely correct. The Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, or the ENIAC as it was called, was controlled by a web of electrical cables. There were thousands of them that needed to be plugged in just so and configured to actually execute one single set of instructions. And this needed to be done every couple of days by the women in these pictures. And the women themselves were actually called computers. And so every couple of weeks, they would have to change over the instructions and rewire all of these cables. Now, fast forward 30 years to 1976. Computers no longer took up an entire room. They actually fit on top of a desk. And that was also the year that Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak created the iconic Apple computer. That was also the year that I moved to the United States from Taiwan. My sister and I were the only Asians in the entire school in the suburb of Detroit, Michigan. Needless to say, I was a little bit lost, probably quite terrified also. But my first grade teacher was so amazing. She actually welcomed me into her classroom and treated me just like any other student, gave me confidence to know that I fit in, even though I was a stranger in a very strange land. So this was me when I was 5. And I was a tomboy, and I loved to play, and I even got a black eye in the playground one day. But my teacher picked me up, she took care of me. And she gave me the opportunity to teach my class about Asian culture as well. And so I distinctly remember for show and tell making ramen in front of the classroom and the smell of it just wafting through the hallways. And I bet none of those kids had ever seen fast food like that ever before. And so that taught me that the power of teachers really is about more than just the academics. It really is about caring for that whole child, and if they feel excluded, to include them and to embrace them and figure out what is the culturally relevant curriculum that would bring them in with their personal stories. Now, after a while, my teachers throughout my schooling really influenced me. And in high school, I had the same math teacher for 4 years. That's practically unheard of. But he said to me, one day you're going to teach. And by senior year, I was his TA. I even got to bring my own papers home to grade along with the rest of my colleagues. And it was actually incredible he gave me that much trust. But when it came time to choose a major in college, my parents were the biggest influence. After all, they were paying the tuition, right? You can't really say no. So my dad said to me, easy is comfortable, but difficult is more fulfilling. And by then, computers were pretty much everywhere. People were no longer being called computers. There were actually jobs as computer scientists. And they were pretty much in homes, and people were doing research and playing around with them. So I thought about computer science as a major. Certainly it was difficult, maybe it could be fulfilling, but the image I had in my mind was people sitting in front of a computer all day just typing out lines of code, moving a cursor from this side of the screen to that side of the screen. It just didn't seem appealing. So I graduated with a chemical engineering degree instead, and when I graduated from Stanford, this passion that I had for education and the back of my mind said, I really want to be a teacher. So that feeling came back, and I got my master's in education, taught math and chemistry in high school, and became an assistant principal. And then the dream evolved. The dream evolved into starting one of those schools that Nikhil talked about. The schools that really challenged the system, got more girls into math and science because there just wasn't enough of us when I was going to college. And so going into that thinking of how do I start a school, I started talking to everybody I knew. So this is much like the design thinking that you're going through at this conference today, is what do the users need to know in order to start a school? You need to know marketing, you need to know organizational behavior, finance. I'm a planner, so I decided, okay, I'm gonna learn all this stuff and then start my school, so I went back to business school. Because to me, starting a school was very much like starting your own company. And I met a couple of you today who've already started your own company, so I give you a lot of credit for just jumping in. When I graduated from business school, though, my professors told me, you can't just start one school. Think about changing the system. And as all of you know, changing the system is incredibly difficult. But I thought, shoot, I'll go for it. Let's go take that risk. It's probably going to be really fulfilling, right? Because the more difficult it is, the more fulfilling it's going to be. So I went back to Stanford, and I worked with the business school and School of Education, trying to fuse the two together, trying to take the best practices and working with the largest school districts in the United States. But as I went along this journey, I also wanted to be credible when I spoke to business leaders. So I went back to the technology sector, and I worked at PayPal, eBay, and Google, and I quickly found out that computer science was the backbone of innovation today. So while I went to business thinking I was going to tell business leaders what their role was in education so that they can have the best workforce for the 21st century, what I actually learned was that I needed to bring the discussion of computer science back to education, to tell people that students needed to create technology, not just to use it. And this was going to help to transform the education system that we knew it, and also to give students the power to do something that could really change the world. But what is computer science in the first place? Many of you already know, but I can tell you that computer science is one of the highest paid professions that you can go into, but you probably already knew that. I could also tell you that it'll make you stand out in a crowd because there are so few of them out there, but you probably already knew that too. But what you might not know is that computer science is not this. Certainly not this, right? It's creative and fun. It's unexpected. And it can take you anywhere. And certainly computer science is everywhere. Think about the day you had today. When you woke up and got out of your hotel room with your key card, or you went down the elevator, or even took out your smartphones, everything has some aspect of technology now. And it is in the palm of your hand today. So think about the power you can have if you're creating the technology that goes behind it. But more than anything, technology can be infused with anything that you love. We're not trying to create a world of all computer scientists. We need diversity. So how does computer science get infused with the passions that you already have? So we're going to show a little bit of a video to demonstrate this.
My name is Lamore Freed, and I'm the lead engineer and owner of Adafruit Industries.
My name is Miral Cobb, and I'm a dancer, and I'm a software engineer.
I am Aya Bader. I'm an engineer and an interactive artist.
My name is Erica Kochi, and I lead innovation at UNICEF.
My name is Robin Haneke. I am a game designer.
My name is Danielle Feinberg. I am a director of photography for lighting at Pixar Animation Studios.
People are happiest when they're really creative, when they're making stuff with their hands, when they get to see what they make. It's not fun to code just for coding's sake. There has to be something at the end that is so cool that the effort you put into it makes it worthwhile.
So you could use code to make a giant head of red curly hair that moves appropriate with the character. You can make schools of fish with code. You can have a car drive on a road with code.
Everyone wants to play. Everyone wants to invent. Everyone wants to create. And code really allows you to do that.
Through code, we were able to register children's births all across Nigeria. We could ensure that children get immunized, ensure that children stay in school. It also ensures that they have a voice.
What's great about writing code is you press a button and immediately you see something happen. You could have someone's head fall off. You can have somebody fly. You can even get eaten by a serpent.
Lots of code is effective, and lots of code is efficient, and lots of code makes things go. But what we need is we need creativity, we need inspiration, we need to see your voices, your flavors, your personalities, your ideas, your inventions. That's how the world becomes a better place.
the things you love are made with code. I don't know how many of you guys realize the performance that you saw at the beginning of the summit was actually based on code, and those dancers are so amazing, weren't they? So when I think about coding, it is an aspect of computer science, but computer science is hardware, software, making those set of instructions do what you're asking it to do. Now, previously I would ask my students, what do you want to do when you grow up? Do you want to be a computer scientist? Do you want to be a dancer? Do you want to be a musician, doctor, lawyer, engineer? But I stopped asking that question because it really silos students, right? You're more than just your profession. You have a lot of passions. When you combine art with medicine, what can that reveal? So instead, these days, I like to ask students, what are the problems that you want to solve? So for example, the El Chica squad that was showcased in the video, they went out to their communities and asked, what is the problem in our community today? And what they found was that trash and graffiti was overtaking their neighborhood. So what they did about it, Ashley, Vanessa, Rosie, and Margarita, they created an app called Tag It, where people could take pictures of the graffiti or the trash, send it with the location to a squad of volunteers who on the weekends would go and clean it up. And it was absolutely transformative for their communities. And it took just 4 hours of coding over 12 weeks to make this happen, and none of them had coded a line in their lives. Or take Maddie, for instance. She asked herself, what is the problem with our clothes? Right? What is the problem with our clothes? Well, it shrinks in the wash, right? If you put a red shirt in with a whole bunch of white socks, what happens? Everything turns pink. Why is it that our washers can't detect the colors of our clothes that when we put them in, things like that wouldn't happen? Or what if you had technology in your clothes that could detect the temperature of the air around you so that when it's hot, it could cool you down, or when that it's cold outside, it could heat you up? Wouldn't that be a wonderful infusion of technology with clothing and fashion? Or if you want to think a little bit bigger, the Worldwide Hearing Organization is creating diagnostic devices on your smartphone that rural healthcare workers can take into any community, see who is having early onset hearing loss, and equip them with a hearing aid, all within less than an hour. Now think about the world that it would open up for these people who couldn't hear before they were diagnosed. So I ask you, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And there will be days where you feel like Don Quixote, tilting at windmills, fighting imaginary or real foes that are trying to prevent you from reaching your goals. But continue to dream big. Fight the good fight. Think about the astronauts who were told, you are going to land on the moon. Nobody thought that was possible. But after 10 years of ingenuity, hard work, and persistence, they made it. And now we say, what is your moonshot? To mean the problems that you want to solve that might seem impossible, but are actually not improbable. So the magic of computer science really is not about computer science at all. It is actually about combining it with the problems that you want to solve so that you can amplify the solution for X, whatever that X might be for you. So I leave you with this quote from Larry Page, the founder of Google. He says, we need more kids falling in love with science and math in school, graduating with science and engineering degrees, and working on important technological problems to make people's lives better. So all of you in this room have the potential to make people's lives better. And my hope is that as you're thinking about the solution for your problems, you will think about computer science and how it can make things faster, bigger, better, and help to reach more people. So go out there and change the world. Thank you.